Sure. Well, it's great to be back. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago. I was just sitting here, so hopefully we'll be sitting here a few more times this weekend with two really good runs in the All-Star race and the truck race. Finishing second in both of them, and I'd like to get one spot more in both races this weekend with the Nationwide and the Cup car. So I think we got a pretty good shot at it. Hopefully we're able to make some small improvements on the car during the week, and if we did that, I think we could do it. So kind of a short week in between the two races, but that's okay. It's always a pleasure to come here and have race weeks and see all the fans, and maybe the traffic's not so much fun, but the rest of it's really cool to see everybody get so excited over these weeks, and it's been good. So I'm looking forward to hopefully having another strong performance and giving my fans something to cheer about, and spending some time Friday on Speed Street doing all that kind of stuff. So a lot of good things going on. Obviously the Hall of Fame yesterday was a big deal for the sport, so that was really cool too, and it's a big deal for Miller to have Rusty get in the Hall of Fame. So really happy for them, and just all in all a great week, and ready to finish it off with, like I said, hopefully two more solid runs.
I will go with Chuck over by the window, and then we'll go to David, and then to Joe.
Brad, Chuck Howard, NASCAR Media Group over here to your right. I know you got some work to do this weekend, but if you could you recap for us what you felt at Michigan with the repave and what you anticipate once you get to Pocono with the new asphalt?
Well, I don't know really what to anticipate for Pocono, but I'm glad we have a test day there. That's going to be big for getting everybody on the same playing field. Those cars that tested and those that didn't. I did have the opportunity to go to Michigan, and that was that was a thrill ride. It's certainly the fastest track on the circuit as it stands right now, and I think that's kind of cool. So I'm looking forward to that, and obviously it's in my backyard, so kind of some bragging rights, and I feel proud about that. But that should be a great race. I don't think anybody really knows what to expect, and those are always the cool races to me. The races where everybody comes in with no experience, and you just kind of go, kind of like Kentucky was, and you just don't really know what to expect. I like those. So Michigan's definitely going to be a race where nobody knows what to expect, and hopefully we come prepared and can bring home a win.
We'll go David, and then Joe, and then Tom Jensen. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, Brad, David Newton, ESPN.com, over this way. We were talking to Ryan Briscoe and Almendinger the other day about what it's like being at the shop this time of the year. Can you kind of talk about that? Do you get much interaction with Roger and get a feel for what this means, being tugged between two different places?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, the month of May is certainly a big month for Penske Racing, and really an opportunity. And obviously they're having a lot of success over there at the Brickyard, and that's great to see and really important for Roger. But we want to have a lot of success over here too, and it's not an easy thing to do. I don't know, has anyone ever pulled off the weekend sweep? I know McMurray was close one year, but I think we've got a shot at it for sure. But you don't take anything for granted, and I know how much it would mean to Roger to be able to pull that off. So, I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, that's the key word that I want to use, and I'm just happy that I have fast enough race cars for it to be a legitimate opportunity. So, obviously it takes a lot of time out of Roger's schedule, but he clears schedule out of this month to make sure that, or he clears time on his schedule for this month to make sure that he can be a part of it all. And it was great to see him fly out Saturday for the All-Star race after qualifying over there at the Brickyard, and I think that just shows that he cares about both programs and he wants to win. So it's good. It's like I said, I feel very, very lucky to have an owner that engaged.
I want to ask you too, Jimmy, winning Darlington, winning the All-Star race, you feel like that team has kind of hit high gear, and we're starting to see them kind of on a roll to show their stuff again?
Well, I think they never really lost the speed. They've had speed all year long. They just haven't been able to close the deal at the end earlier in the season, and now I think they're definitely closing the deal at the end. And that's part of it too. Don't get me wrong, but you look at some of the NASCAR stats with the speed by quarter and so forth. They're right there, if not the best of anybody. And I think that shows that they've had the main component, and that's always speed. They have it. And so it's just a matter of catching the right breaks and the yells at the right times and so forth. And kind of executing at the end, I guess is the best way to put it. And they're doing that right now with the fastest race cars. So, when they win with the car as fast as they have, they're going to win in dominating fashion like they did this past Saturday. So, it's up to us to make sure they don't execute better than we do, and hopefully we can find just like I said, a touch more speed to where we can kind of knock them off that bubble. But they're still a really good team with great cars, and when they win, they're gonna win big.
Let's go to Joe, Tom, and then Viv.
Joe Menzer, NASCAR.com. Brad, obviously you drive a very iconic car. I'm just wondering, with Rusty getting in, was that kind of special for you to see that? And do you have any special memories of him driving the 2-car?
Special memories of Rusty for me. He had that one year, I can't remember if it was 93, 94, somewhere in there, where he just dominated. I can't remember how many races he won, but had to be somewhere around 8. I don't have the full stats, so don't quote me on that. But I remember that year, and there was this video game that came out, and I first started racing it. I'll never forget it. It was this NASCAR video game. He was always the guy to beat. I was probably about 10 years old. And so I remember that and how fast his car was, and how good he was at Bristol and Martinsville and places like that. So, I remember that season for him more than anything else when I think back to Rusty, and obviously the black and gold MGD car. So I think that's really special for Miller, and that's where my memories are. So it's pretty cool to think of him being in the Hall of Fame and what that means for Miller. I'm excited for them. I know they got some plans they're working on to really take advantage of that with regards to Rusty being in the Hall of Fame and how to do something cool with the fans and him. So I'm excited to see how that all plays out. But I think it's all great stuff. The Hall of Fame is, I think, doing exactly what it was supposed to do, and that's create some excitement in the sport. So it's great to see. 93-10 race. I was 2 off. No, you're right.
Let's
I
go
was only 9. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah. Tom, Viv, and Pete.
Hey, Brad, Tom Jensen, Speed.com. After having the sprint race last weekend where so much strategy played into it, now you go to a really long race. How much of a mental transition is that? Is it more difficult?
I think there's definitely a transition there where you have to be a little more patient, so to speak. And I think it's probably more of a transition for the crew chiefs than it is for the drivers, because at the end of the day, it's still our job to drive the cars very, very hard and make them go fast. But I think it's more of a transition for the crew chiefs to make sure that the cars have maybe a more appropriate balance of speed and reliability. And speed being long versus short run, and reliability obviously being, parts and componentry that doesn't fail in such a long race. So I think it's probably more of a transition for them than it is for the driver, but it certainly requires a different approach, and I think that's great. I think it showcases teams that are strong in multiple directions, and I kind of think it's pretty cool.
Viv, Pete, and then Mike. Go ahead.
Viv Bernstein, New York Times. I don't know if you take a moment to look at the Charlotte Observer this week. They've had a Charlotte Motor Speedway's had a full-page ad for the Coke 600, and the driver featured is Danica Patrick. And I guess I wonder if because you click on ESPN or NASCAR.com, you're going to see Danica. Is she becoming the face of NASCAR, and is that okay with you guys?
Is Danica becoming the face of NASCAR? Well, I mean, that's not for me to judge. That's for you guys to judge and for the fans to judge. Certainly she brings some attention to the sport from a crossover standpoint of those that are maybe would not have been engaged in it before, and new interest is always good interest. And I can't remember who it was that said it. I think it was Jeff Gordon. Maybe it was a year or two ago. That it's great that she'll bring that new attention, because I feel like if I win or if he wins or whoever wins, that at the end of the day, it's the winner that always gets the most of it. And it's just a matter of getting people to tune in to begin with. So if she can get people to tune in to begin with, I think that's definitely a win for the sport. But like I said, I'm not really a good judge on whether she's the face or not. I don't have enough time to look through those things to, I guess, get a grasp of it. But I can certainly understand if I was a track or someone in the media that relied on ticket sales and page views or ratings, whatever that might be, and she sold more of them or produced more of them, whatever that might be, then heck, I'd put her on whatever I could put her on. So I can understand that approach. So, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's for you guys to judge whether she's the face of the sport, not me.
All right, we'll go Pete, Mike, and in with Dustin.
Brad, Pete Iacobelli with the Associated Press. What's it like to drive for Mr. Penske, and was it intimidating at all the first time that you kind of met him and chatted with him?
Well, yeah, the first time I met him, it was definitely intimidating. Long story short, I'm from Michigan, and Roger lives in Michigan and has all his offices up there. And without giving away the exact location of where his office is, I can say that it's purposely left unmarked. And it's literally a building that I drove by all my life growing up and did not know that's where he was at. So I'll never forget when he called me and gave me the address of where to meet him at. And I put it in my phone, Google Maps. No, I got the wrong address, And I remember calling back up. I can't remember if it was the secretary or someone. And, kind of double checking, like, no, that's it. And so I drove in his building, and, I'll never forget that. He had this really cool underground parking, which would make sense why I didn't know it was his building. And I remember going up, elevators and stuff that were kind of guarded. It was really cool, just a unique experience. So I would definitely say that the first time I met him, I was probably more intimidated by the fact that the way his building was and how he does things and how beautiful it was. And I think that kind of goes into his persona of who he is and what makes him so much fun to be a part of his teams is the commitment to excellence that he has. So, more power to him. He knows how to make that stuff work. He knows how to make things nicer than what you ever thought they could be. I had the pleasure of taking a few groups through a tour of our shop over this week and past week. And they all say the same thing, when they go through the building. This is so Roger, because when you go through the building at Penske Racing, there's no other shop that compares to it. And I get messages from fans on Twitter that take the tours, and that's all Roger. That's him walking through the shop, and we joke all the time. There's somebody leaves papers on their desk, he'll walk through when he's there and find the biggest cabinet he can find and dump them all in there, because that's how he wants things. He wants the desk to be clean at night, the floor to be clean, and things of that nature. And that's just Roger, and that's part of what makes him so cool.
We'll go Mike and finish with Dustin.
Hey, Brad, Mike Solartain, TV Row here. You've routinely driven both nationwide and cup races in the same weekend. Kind of back to Viv's question about Danica, what is she in for, since she hasn't done this a lot, running both series in the same weekend? The physical preparation, the mental preparation, what goes into that? Because the cars are a little bit different.
Sure. Well, I can only go from my own experience. I can say she's in for losing a lot of weight this weekend. This is a tough one, and I think it's an equal challenge to last week physically. So, whatever last week was, just take those quotes and copy-paste them, because it's the same thing. And by last week, I mean Darlington, because it's very similar in nature. The racetrack itself is probably not quite as challenging as Darlington, but the extra race length more than makes up for that. So, it's a tough race, 600 miles. And, I know there's been talk from people in the past about it needs to be shorter, but I think that's why it's such a great race, is the fact that it's so long, because it really differentiates it from other races and adds another element to it that I don't think you see anywhere else. So, I think that's what she's up for.